Good morning and welcome to our weekly radio teleconference for May 22nd. Last week on the Senate floor was the big battle over our budget. And I think most people in the country right now realize that the Senate is going into its third year without having adopted a budget, almost 1,100 days. And this is unfortunately not by accident. The leadership of the Senate does not want to force their side to take the tough votes that are necessary to push a budget through, and as a result, they've left us without a budget, as I said, for 3 years now running. And the Republicans were able, in the budget deal that was put together last year when we had the huge fight over the debt ceiling, to get a provision put into the budget agreement that if the Senate didn't adopt a budget this year by the statutory deadline, that any senator could bring forward a budget and force a vote on it on the Senate floor. So last week, 5 different budgets were brought forth by various Republican senators, including the president's budget. I noted on the floor at that time that everybody but the Senate seems to have a budget. The president has proposed a budget. The Republicans in the House have adopted a budget. The Democrats in the House have proposed a budget. The Republicans in the Senate have proposed a budget. And, frankly, every family and business in America has to operate with a budget. But in the Senate, we were not able to get agreement to bring one forward, so those 5 bills were brought forward. The president's budget, which, frankly, continued the pattern of taxing and spending, raised taxes by $2 trillion and raised spending by $1 trillion, or by a little over $1 trillion. And when it was put up for a vote, it received 0 votes. It went down 0 to 99. The other budgets that were brought forward were the House budget that has been adopted in the House. It failed also. And then 3 other Republican budgets were brought forward, each of which would have put us on a track to balance the federal budget and helped us to achieve some fiscal responsibility. Each of those went down as well. So although we had a huge debate last week, we still ended the week with no budget. And I think that the American people are starting to see how the Senate is operating and to recognize that we have to have a much greater commitment to our fiscal responsibility here in the Senate. This week in the Senate, we are focusing on the FDA user fee bill. This is one on which we are able to build some bipartisan support. This is the bill that reauthorizes the Food and Drug Administration and through a system of user fees helps to finance it. And unless something changes, we ought to be able to move successfully through and adopt this bill this week in one of the unfortunately rare circumstances that are developing in the Senate where we do have the bipartisan support to move forward. We're facing a tremendous amount of gridlock here in the Senate. And one way or the other, I think that the American people need to weigh in and help us to break this gridlock. With that, let me stop and we'll throw it open for questions. And Scott, are you on the line?
Good morning, Senator. Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Senator, let's talk about gridlock. I mean, it's a presidential election year. Honestly, you think anything will happen before the November elections?
Unfortunately, I don't think any of the major things that we need to do will happen, with the possible exception of a farm bill on which we are developing some bipartisan support, and hopefully a transportation bill, although there is a huge battle on the transportation bill related to the Keystone XL pipeline. If we can get past that battle, I think we may be able to adopt a transportation bill. And there will be some others, like the FDA bill that's on the floor this week, that we are able to build the bipartisan support that we need for it. On the big issues, though, the national debt and the need for putting together a reform of our tax code and a reform of the entitlement systems, unfortunately, I don't think there's much chance before the election of the Senate being able to build a necessary consensus to move forward on them. And frankly, that's very unfortunate because I don't think the country is yet focused on the fact that we are facing a fiscal cliff in November and December of just a number of very, very dangerous things that are going to happen. We're going to hit the debt ceiling again and face another battle over raising the debt ceiling. We're going to have the sequestration that will hit us arising from the budget battle last year. We are going to have the expiration of the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts that will result, if they are allowed to expire, then the taxes will spring back, and we'll see about a $5 trillion increase in taxes over the next 10 years. And the list goes on. The alternative minimum tax patch that is protecting Americans from the alternative minimum tax will go away and expire. The doc fix in Medicare will expire. The estate taxes will spring back to a much higher rate. And like I say, the list goes on. And so if we don't get some responsible attention to these issues before the end of the year, we're going to face a time in November and December when we'll need to be in a lame duck session, and we will probably see a phenomenal pressure on our markets as a result of all of these things occurring at the same time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, next, Don.
Good morning, Senator. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Very good. The last I knew, well, first of all, you've been a long-term supporter of the Violence Against Women issue and act. The last I knew, the issue was stalled in the House over several key issues. What's the status on that, and are you confident that that logjam is going to break anytime soon?
Well, I wish I could tell you I was confident that the logjam will break because there is very strong support in both parties for the Violence Against Women Act. But right now there is a gridlock, if you will, between the House and the Senate over just a couple of the provisions in the Violence Against Women Act. The basic core of the act is not being disputed. It's a provision that was included relating to illegal aliens having access to some of the services, and a provision that was included relating to extending tribal jurisdiction in a way which some believe is unconstitutional. And so if we can get past those two issues, we should be able to move forward with the bill. But right now, we are stalled, and I haven't seen any indication that that logjam is going to be broken soon. I do believe that that's one on which we ought to be able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And next is George. Are you on with us today, George? All right, Jason.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm talking about you mentioned the transportation bill with the Keystone XL pipeline. Is that I assume that's the bill with the county payments attached to it?
Yes, that's also the bill that has the funding for the county payments. And so it's a very, very important bill, not just to the country, but to Idaho specifically for those reasons.
And I guess I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about attaching it to that bill and the prospects of having that included in the final bill.
Well, we did, many of us fought, as you know, consistently to find a vehicle or a piece of legislation to which we could attach the county payments bill. And we were successful in getting it into the transportation bill. And I believe that it will remain in there as the bill moves forward. The problem with the bill is in a couple of other areas, most notably the cost of the bill and how to offset it, and secondly, the Keystone XL pipeline. And if we can resolve those two big issues, which I believe we ought to be able to do, then I believe that the county payments will be sustained and move forward with the bill to its ultimate passage.
Hey, can you also just talk quickly a little bit about your stance on the pipeline? I know we've talked a little bit about it before. I was wondering if you talked about it again.
No, definitely. I strongly support the Keystone XL pipeline. The United States is far too dependent on foreign sources for our petroleum, and this will help us to be able to refine our own oil and to utilize oil from a friendly neighbor, Canada, instead of being so dependent on the Middle East or South America for oil, often dependent on getting our oil from countries that are not friendly to the United States. Many argue that we should stop utilizing petroleum and move to different sources of energy. And I'm very supportive of a broad energy base, a big energy portfolio where we move into as many different kinds and forms of energy as we can to diversify our energy portfolio. But the bottom line is that our economy right now is highly dependent on petroleum, and no matter how we approach our energy policy, we will still need to develop our own petroleum resources for years and years to come.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Leslie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kind of a follow-up to Jason's question. Earlier this month, the House did not include the Payments to Counties and Secure Rural Schools Act in their version. Why was that?
I don't know why the House did not include it. It ordinarily would not have been in the bill, so they just may have not moved forward with it. But in the Senate, we were able to get it included because a number of us in the Senate insisted that we have an opportunity to bring an amendment to do that. I don't think that the failure of the House to put it in indicates a resistance in the House to it. It's just that it was not typically included in that legislation, and they did not take that action in the House.
Earlier you mentioned the gridlock and that nothing will happen. Is this lumped into the nothing will happen?
That's one where I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Leslie. This is one where it could be stalled because of the gridlock, but I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is that this is such a huge bill and such a critically important bill that generally has broad bipartisan support. A national transportation system is one of the justifiable and proper things for our federal government to be involved in, and the transportation infrastructure is critical to our economy. And Republicans and Democrats understand that. So because of the importance of the bill and because of the generally bipartisan support that it receives, I hope that these other issues can be resolved. The budget issue, I think, can easily be resolved. There will be a way to pay for it. Right now we're fighting over the Democrats want to raise taxes to pay for it, and the Republicans want to cut spending in order to pay for it. But one way or the other, I believe we can resolve that. The XL pipeline issue is going to be harder, and that's what caused me to pause and not be quite sure about how the answer to your question should be, because that is one of those gridlock items that can and will carry well into the election. And so if we don't find a way to either just take that issue in another forum and debate it there, then we may face a situation where this bill, the transportation bill, could be stopped through the gridlock. Now, if that does happen, by the way, I just can't believe that the Congress would allow our entire transportation infrastructure set of programs to expire and not find some kind of a way to, even on a temporary basis, move us forward.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank everybody else for being, there's nobody else, I haven't missed anybody, have I? Okay, I thank all of you for being on the call and look forward to next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Have a good day.
You too, thanks, bye.